Hey YouTube, thanks for clicking on the video today. Doing a little bit of an update on my 4.6 town car. I decided to swap out the cam followers. Basically, when I had the heads rebuilt, I used the old followers, and I just feel at this time, especially since I will be applying nitrous to this motor, I just want to have better cam followers or new cam followers in there, just because. Anyway, I'm not going to make this too long, but I am not going to be taking these followers out with a screwdriver technique like you see on some videos. I mean, that's kind of sketchy to me. There's a lot of things can happen. You could bend a valve, the valve stem, possibly. Could score up the cam, scratch the cam. I mean, you could put a piece of rubber in between the cam lobe and the screwdriver that you're popping them off with, but I don't know. It just seems kind of a crude way to do things. You can get the tool for about 30 bucks on Amazon. Matter of fact, I have it here. Basically, you have a foot piece that will sit on top of the valve spring retainer. I've taken one off camera because I need two hands to do it because the head's just sitting here. So, the ones on the motor will be a little easier to show. I don't know if I will or not. But this is going to go on the spring retainer. Now you also have what's called a valve keeper, or just known as a keeper sometimes, and that's right inside that retainer. You can see that other circle or ring in there. When you compress the spring, you want to be sure your valve is going down with the spring, so you probably want to have something to push down on the valve while you're doing it. Reason being, if this keeper comes out and you don't know it, and when you release the tension on the spring, if the keepers have fallen out, the spring is going to come off and the valve is going to drop into the motor. Not a good scenario, so you want to be careful with that. Another thing, and there's other videos on how to take cam followers off, so I'm not going to cover every aspect of it. Okay, so the valve cover off, obviously, and I do have all the cam followers off. Didn't video record any of that. I just can't. It's just too hard to try to set up a camera, do the video recording, and work. So anyway, the tool works pretty well. The one drawback to this tool is the fact that, let me see, the foot is not attached to the other part that goes under the cam. That would be this piece here. I still have the wrench in it, but you can see the curvature that goes underneath the cam. And then of course the pins on the foot go in here. I think the tool would have been better is if the metal had went around the pins so that it would pivot but did not fall out of the tool. Because really, in the back here, it was very difficult to get the foot in here and keep it in place while I finagled the compression foot, or the compression piece, on underneath the cam. I did get them all out. Once the cover was off, I'd say it was about maybe 20 minutes to do the one side, to take them all off. I haven't installed them yet, obviously. Whoops. Sorry about that. What I'm using to spin the motor around is just basically an 18 millimeter socket, 6-point, with my ratchet wrench. And that has plenty of torque to turn this around. You're not trying to spin the motor as quickly as you can. You just want to spin it slowly, let the compression bleed out of each cylinder as you're, hitting upon the compression stroke. You're not trying to force past the compression, and you can do it relatively easy without putting a lot of effort into it. And you won't affect the torque that the crankshaft bolt is torqued down to that way. So now I'm going to reverse the procedure. I'm going to put the new ones in. I will update you on how that process goes. I expect that to be a little easier now because I don't have the cam followers blocking my view of the top of the valve spring retainer, so it should be a little easier to install, but I may revise that after I start up the next part of this recording. Alright, so when I get back at it, I'm going to start putting the cam followers in on this side, and we'll move on to the other side. Okay, one thing I didn't mention before I proceed, getting this valve cover off on this side, to make your life a little easier, especially on Lincolns. Crown Vics and that I think are a little easier. I've disconnected the cabling from the battery terminals, and this is the cable here, and it connects also to this other connection here. Once you get this out of your way, it makes life a lot easier because this runs over and behind the back of the valve cover, and it's rather difficult. You're fighting with limited clearance as it is between the cam cradle here and the box for the heater core and air conditioning condenser. So the other thing I also did, I removed the hold down bolts for the coil packs up to the third one up front here, just to give me a little room, because the coil packs do hang over slightly here over this edge of the head that the valve cover goes onto. So with the bolt out, you can see the coils will flex out of your way to give you a little more leeway. Otherwise it is hard to fight this side to get off. So that's just one thing I wanted to mention. If you have to take the valve covers off for any reason, be aware of that. It'll make your life a little easier. I know it's more to take apart, but in the long run, it makes your life easier. You're not fighting with something. You're not going to knock the valve cover gasket out when you reinstall it. So that's the way I would recommend to go. Alright, we're going to get back to the installation of the cam followers. Okay, so it took me a lot longer than I intended. I've gotten the passenger side done, but I did not put the... Well, before I get to that, let me just preface this job as it sucks. Even with the valve compressor tool, is a major pain in the ass. You're trying to compress the spring with one hand, and you're trying to get the cam follower seated on top of the spring and the lash adjuster at the same time, and it is a pain, especially in the back by the firewall on the passenger side. I had no room to work back there. I literally had to take the cam cradle off. I don't like to do that, but I had all the valves, the cam followers off, so there really was no pressure on the cradles from the valve springs. That was the only way I could get the back one on. There was no other way. And I thought this side was going to be more of a pain or challenge, but then I was looking at this side, and on a Lincoln, it's a pain. You got the master cylinder in the way, brake booster in the way, so it's just a pain just to get the valve cover off on this side. So would I recommend doing this in the car? No. If you have the motor out and you want to put new cam followers in, that tool probably would be great, but to do it in the car, it just sucks, especially on a Lincoln. I don't know, maybe a Mustang, Crown Vic may be a little bit different. As you can see, I also had to pull out the whole cowl section with the wiper motor and all that in order to get access to the back of the valve covers and all that, because otherwise it's all covered over. So it is a major pain. Another pitfall I ran across today, like I was mentioning earlier, I wanted to swap out the valve covers. I wanted to put the plain valve cover on the driver's side and the filler tube on the passenger side. So I got these off of a I think it was a 03 Crown Vic, something like that. And I didn't take these off. They pulled them for me at the junkyard, or I wouldn't have touched them. What I noticed is when I installed this on the head on this side, the valve cover, it's bumping into the cam bolt. And if you look at this one, you have your indentation here for the bolts, but this face is completely flat. There's no indentation on it. This one, for some reason, has an indentation, and it fits, or it juts in there right where the cam bolt is. So yeah, not gonna work. I don't know, I may try looking in the junkyard myself to see if I can find another set that has the filler tube on the passenger side but doesn't have that indentation in the face of the valve cover where the cam gears go. If I can't, I might look into getting a pair of like trick flow heads, something, or valve covers for the motor and throwing them on. Or I may just say screw it and leave the air tube run over the top of the filler. But then every time I want to do an oil change, I got to take the zip tube off. So I don't know. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Well, I'm done for tonight. This is taking me way longer than I expected. To be honest, I got the old ones off in about 20 minutes once I got the valve cover off and started working on it. I popped them all off. It was easy. Getting them on, another story. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Just giving you a heads up, if you go to do this in a Lincoln, you know, I wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it again. You know, if you have a bad cam follower and you just want to do a repair, simple repair, and replace one or two, yeah, that tool would probably work fine and you could do it. But to do a full set on a motor, I don't recommend doing it in the car, not on the Lincoln anyway. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and have a great evening.